and our weekly video segment to take you into the back shelves of your local video store, back where it says horror videos, and where kids are devouring some awful films that we call the video nasties.
Are you freebasing? Inquiring minds want to know.
I have to break free from this culture of mechanical reproductions and the thick incrustations dying on the surface.
Fuck the prime time, bitch!
Mom with the new flesh.
The pain, I can assure you, will be exquisite. As for our deaths, come with me and be immortal.
We have such sights to show you.
Gotta return some videotapes.
Hello, horror hounds, and welcome to the It Slays podcast. I'm your humble host, Rowan.
And I'm a Sheen Tapestry, Mike.
And I'm Colton.
And it's Jill.
And we are back, and this is exciting. It is our first episode of Pride Month. We are here. We were waiting every year to celebrate the queerness in horror. And finally, Mike is happy because A, he's back, and B, he's not doing an A24 movie. So
this one's definitely A24 adjacent, though.
Yeah.
Coded.
They were definitely involved in this.
I thought you were going to say it's the one themed month that Mike can't hate on, but,
I mean, he might be able to hate on it when...
Oh, I can hate on the pics if I want.
Oh, the pigs, yes.
The sassiness. But yes, Mike is back, and it's Pride Month and all that good stuff. We're going to talk more about that in a bit. But let's start off with what we've been consuming, what we've been watching, what we've been listening to, what we've been reading. And Mike, you were gone, so let's start with you.
I was gone. I missed one episode. Let me
I mean,
live,
that's like a
please.
month, though, right?
Listen, it's not my fault y'all wanted to record on my birthday, okay? Okay, hang on. Sorry, guys. I had my letterboxd open, and then I was like, oh shit, I forgot to log something I watched last night, and then I left it open, so.
Now I'm afraid to refresh Letterboxd, because I know I'll see the 1-star review of this movie, so.
Shut up! Okay. So when did we record last? Oh, In Fabric. Okay, so everything after In Fabric, I can say, oh, I actually got a lot. Oh, because it has been a few weeks. Yeah, that's right. Okay. I'm like, how did I watch this?
I wasn't throwing shade. It's literally been like 4 weeks for what you've been watching.
No, you're right.
You. So, yeah.
Not quite.
Okay.
Okay. We're two days short, so give me that. Okay, so yeah, it's been a few weeks since I recorded, so I have actually watched a few things. I did a bunch of rewatches. Actually, I did a lot of rewatches. Shocker. So I did a couple of rewatches that were 4K viewings.
Nice.
Which was exciting. One of them was actually only last night. We watched Hellraiser in 4K, the Arrow UK 4K box set. It looked amazing. It's always nice to rewatch that movie. I've seen it like 50 times. And it looked phenomenal. If I had money, I would be ordering this from the UK immediately. I also rewatched another thing I've seen 50 times in 4K, which was Tenebrae, which also looked insane. I need it so badly, but it's so fucking expensive. That's 4Ks literally are out to destroy me. They just want to murder me. I watched a bunch of shitty TV movies. One of them is Mother, May I Sleep with Danger, Tori Spelling classic from the 90s. We love Tori Spelling TV movies because they're always garbage. And another one was from the 70s. It was kind of a OG thrillery TV movie called Are You in the House Alone? I had actually never seen that one before, so it was kind of interesting to see it as a blueprint for a lot of tame ass movies that came after it. I rewatched The Miseducation of Cameron Post, speaking of Pride Month, because I do love a good oh my god, this sounds ridiculous. I was gonna say I love a good conversion therapy movie, but
I knew you were going there.
It sounds fucked up to say, but like I've watched a bunch of them and like read a bunch of books, and I don't know, there's just something about conversion therapy movies in the like queer canon are to me what like a slasher movie is in the horror canon. It's just like that subgenre that I can't get enough of, and I have no idea why. And I rewatched an old classic Shannon Tweed thriller from the 80s called The Surrogate. It's actually really bad and really good and really enjoyable. So yeah, I've also seen that one like 80 times.
I love it.
And I watched one. This might be of interest to Ro because Paul Bettany is in it. I watched this one called Uncle Frank.
All right.
And Paul Bettany is in it, and Sophia Lillis, who was in, you know, It and a bunch of other horror movies. It was pretty good. Not a conversion therapy movie, but you know, it's fine. I forced my friend to watch.
I'm out now, then.
Guys, like I just have to say, for all of y'all and anybody listening, if you haven't seen The Cook, the Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover, like I forced my friend to watch it the other night while we were having some wine, and I think I changed her life. It's this like Helen Mirren movie that's like totally completely off the wall from like 1989. You need to see it. It needs a 4K. It needs a Blu-ray. It has like really no home video release for like the last 20 years, and it's criminal. And lastly, yesterday I finally watched the Lady Gaga concert film Chromatica Ball, and it served so much cunt. I was like just picking my jaw up off the floor constantly. So sorry to like dominate, but that is what I have been consuming for the last few weeks. Like anybody got anything? Like I know y'all have been recording like mad, so you probably don't have anything new. Ro, you got anything? Have you watched anything? I know you haven't watched a single goddamn thing.
I like the trend that I seem to go second all the time now. I like to be in the middle. I like to be sandwiched in the middle.
Oh my God, you
Jesus.
would.
Yeah, I've been consuming some stuff. So I'm reading a book. I'm reading.
That's different.
Nothing I'm sure anyone on this podcast cares about. I'm reading Scottie Pippen's autobiography.
Who?
So, yeah, I know Willow will appreciate it when she listens to this episode. Scottie Pippen, who was like Michael Jordan's, like the other star of the Chicago Bulls when he played, and, you know, there's been lots of like juicy gossip drama with Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan, so this book is like fairly recent, and I was interested in reading it. You know, take a look into that. It's always fun to, you know, read if you don't know anything about it, you know, such as, you know, Scottie Pippen's now ex-wife dating Michael Jordan's 20-year-old son. She's like 50-something, and, yeah, there's
that's
basically Scottie Pippen's like come out now the last couple years and trying to just been like Michael Jordan was overrated and not that good, and you know they're just kind of like trash talking each other. But you know it's interesting, like it's about his life, and when I was growing up, he was like Scottie Pippen was one of my favorite players, so I'm reading that for a book. I'm doing a little bit of television watching. I'm back on my X-Files train. So I am still on season 3. I'm just trying to wrap up season 3 right now and get into season 4. And then, I'll start with the rewatches because I'll just go through those quick. I did a couple rewatches. I rewatched Dave Chappelle Killing Them Softly. Basically, I was at Value Village. I bought myself a new VHS DVD combo player, and that was the DVD. I decided to test it out. Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, that was like, you know, I think his second HBO special, so it was like peak Dave Chappelle right before he got his show. So like super funny, but like the best Dave Chappelle there is. And then I tested the VHS player out and watched Empire Records on VHS. Which I always love Empire Records, just
classic.
Has
that come out? The soundtrack of that needs to come out on like a nice yellow clear vinyl.
Yeah, it should.
Or something.
Also, like I'm pretty sure an extremely hard like Blu-ray. Like I don't own the Blu-ray. I think it was like a very limited pressing of it. I feel like it's due for you know,
a renaissance.
Yeah. I rewatched Colton's favorite movie, Lisa Frankenstein.
What is wrong with y'all? You're watching this movie every week. I feel like,
in my defense, I still haven't watched it, so you should be proud of me.
okay, I am proud of you, Mike, but I feel like Jill and Rowan are going back and forth, like having to bring up this movie every episode.
Dude, I love it. It's like my favorite movie of the year so far.
Didn't you give it 5 stars on Letterboxd?
Fuck yeah.
This is only my second
She has to go
time.
see like Dune 2 or something, or The First Omen, or like an actually good movie,
This is only my second time seeing it. It's because I did purchase it on Blu-ray, and Exilia hadn't seen it yet, so we ate supper and watched that. So that's why I rewatched.
What were her thoughts?
I think she liked it. She thought it was all right. I don't know if she loved it, but I think she thought it was all right. What else? Rewatch. Jesus Christ, Colton's yelling about Lisa Frankenstein. I rewatched movie 43 again. I think this is like less than a year.
That also upset me. I'm at work. Every now and then I have some downtime. I open up Instagram and go like, oh, okay, Rowan got a story. It's probably some dumb TikTok memes or some shit. And then I open it up, and it's a Letterboxd review. It's like 4 stars for movie 43 or something.
Always.
Literally known to be one of the worst movies in existence. It's like you and Howard the Duck. God, I just, just starting my day off wrong.
Yeah. So it was, last time I talked about this on the show when I watched it, it's the exact same story. It was literally like at work. A guy was like, I've never seen this. Everyone tells me I should see it. And then I was like, sure, let's watch it. And, I'm just a sucker for movie 43. And then I did a rewatch of Eddie Murphy Delirious, which
Banger.
is just, all-time classic. Also, Chris Rock, Bring the Pain, which is also a classic. That's like one of his really early, that's from 96. His stand-up, some of his most famous bits are from that one. Colton looked like he was about to judge me or something.
Oh, he is.
Oh, I know.
It's not about
When you
you.
mentioned Eddie Murphy, for whatever reason, I wanted to say he was great in Shrek. And then as soon as you said Chris Rock, all that I could think of was, oh man, he was great in Madagascar. And I don't know what's wrong with me.
I've never seen Madagascar, so...
Oh, you're missing out, man. Chris Rock was great in it.
He's too busy watching Lisa Frankenstein 18 more times. He can't watch anything new.
I'll have to check it out. Then I watched the new Netflix. It's not really a crime, I guess, whatever you would consider a crime. It's the Ashley Madison Sex, Lies, and Scandal.
Ooh.
I was interested.
What's that on?
Netflix.
This was a story from like a decade ago now, right?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
and it was also interesting because Disney put out their own version of this last year. And like Netflix does when something's already kind of been out, they just got different people and hit it from a different perspective. This was pretty interesting because obviously the CEO guy that, everyone was kind of obsessed with that was a dirtbag. The Disney one, they didn't really get anyone involved with him or the company, where this one they actually got his right hand man to do interviews for it.
Oh
yeah, so I mean it was good. It's mostly just a narrative of about some Christian YouTuber that got exposed for being on Ashley Madison, and it was funny just because I like to see the downfall of Christian YouTubers.
God.
It was a real good time. I will say that I still get another episode to watch, but I'm watching their new one on Netflix, which is Dancing with the Devil. It's about this TikTok dance cult. It's basically a religion that manages dancers on TikTok, but it's very Scientology-esque.
Is it they all go and move into a big house together?
Essentially, it's this rich guy that runs it, and then after a while, he's basically you have to cut yourself off from anyone in your family in order to save them. But it's pretty wild. They interview one guy that he was a really, he had millions of followers. He joins this in air quotes management company that's also the church, and he has a baby, and they're just yeah, you have to cut that baby out of your life. And luckily he didn't do that. But yeah, so that's been kind of interesting. Speaking of Chris Rock.
Christopher Walken.
Yeah. I watched I Think I Love My Wife. I'd never seen it. This was like interesting. I don't know if it's good, but interesting. It's Chris Rock doing his best not being Chris Rock. Like, he's not yelling. He's like very timid and mild.
Oh no, it's him in the Saw franchise again. Have you seen that one?
Yeah. No, his was Spiral.
Oh, Spiral. You're right.
No, this is, and I mean, he did interviews when this came out that like this was his attempt at a Woody Allen movie. Like it's just weird, like New York, romantic comedy thing. I was interested in it because I saw it on a bunch of lists as one of the most misogynistic movies of all time. And it's interesting. Like, he's just like walking down the street and you're hearing his inner monologue and he's just like, that girl's dressed like a slut. And like, it's just weird. And it's basically about a guy that wants to cheat on his wife because she's not exciting in bed anymore, and, like all these things, whether that works out or not. The highlight is his best friend is Steve Buscemi in it.
Hell yeah.
And he's awesome because he just plays like a dirt bag that cheats on his wife, but he's like super funny in it. And yeah, it was just a weird thing.
Where's Steve Buscemi been? I feel like I haven't seen him in anything in like 10 years.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd like to see him in more stuff, though. And then let's get to the good stuff. Ricky Stenicki,
my God. My Google, whatever it is, Chromecast home thing has been marketing this to me for like 2 months.
Yeah, so, I mean, this is... I don't know. Like, it's not that it's like terrible. Like, I got a few laughs out of this. Channing Tatum, Andrew Santos, I think his name is. He's like a comedian that's like
Zac Efron as well, right? Like, that's what it looked like.
Zac Efron also.
All right.
And it's all right. Like, I would say it's like a little better than like a Happy Gilmore production or something. Basically, it was a movie that originally was, it's one of these movies that was created for like other people and they just couldn't get it made. I think the Farley brothers, speaking of movie 43, like I think they had something to do with it also. So it's like the Dumb and Dumber people. But like I thought Channing Tatum was really good in it. It seems like most people, even that didn't like the movie, were like Channing Tatum's actually like, I mean, he's really good in comedies. So, and then I double featured that with the new Roadhouse since I had seen the old Roadhouse. And what a flick. I don't really know anything about Conor McGregor, but yeah, there's choices. There's obviously he's a meme now because of it. It's just wild. Like, it's insane. That's all I'm going to say because I don't want to ruin it. But yeah.
How was Gyllenhaal?
Oh, Gyllenhaal.
Jake. Yeah.
Jake is always a pleasant thing to watch because he's just insane also. Like, he's super buff in this. It's one of those weird things where it's like it's a remake, but it's not really. It's a remake for like the first 5 minutes and then they just totally do their own thing and it's just wild. I'm wordless for it, especially Conor McGregor's performance, which he just has a weird smile the entire time that apparently they told him he shouldn't do and he just refused to.
Is that the fighter guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
This was the highest paid acting debut of all time. He got paid $5.5 million to be in this.
I feel like using the word acting,
it's
probably a stretch.
It literally seems like he did a kilo of cocaine and then did it. And the memes are awesome. If you haven't seen like the Popeye memes and stuff of them, it's worth checking out on the internet. Good time.
Yeah, from what I've heard, you probably could have paid an actor $5.5 and got a better performance. So
100%. I'll go pretty quick. I watched King Cup for the first time. This was not good. I didn't like him.
What does it say? The title again?
Tin Cup. It's
I thought you said King Cup.
No,
that's what I thought too. I was like, King Cup. What the fuck is that?
No, I saw Tin Cup. This was another one I watched at work. Most of the guys at work are like sports people, and they were like, "Hey, want to watch a sports movie about golf?" Which you're already losing me with that. Like, who likes golf?
I'm falling asleep right now listening to it.
So, but
first of all, golf is not even a sport. But anyway.
So we put this movie on. They keep telling me like, "Oh, it's so funny." Well, there's about it's 2.5 hours long. If a movie from 1996 or something.
That is funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, but isn't Renee Russo in it?
She is, and she does serve.
Okay.
She's amazing in it. But not only that, but there's like 2 minutes of golf in it, and then it's just a straight up romance. So I thought it was really funny because like all these bro guys were just like, yeah, it's like this sports movie. And I'm just like, there's literally no sports in it. It's just a unfunny romantic comedy. Kevin Costner's horrid in it. Like, it's just not great.
That's his only method of acting.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, who can't wait for Horizons? Yeah, and then quickly I watched Jim Jeffries. I swear to God, I'm a big Jim Jeffries guy. I really like his podcast. This is like one of his very first stand-ups from like 2007 or something. Not great. I think this was... Most people know Jim Jeffries is like this super kind of like left-wing political guy. This is when he was trying to be like shock comedy bro in 2007. So it's like a lot of jokes about midgets and sluts, and like there's a lot of weird things going on that I was like, whoa, this is not the Jim Jeffries I know of. And then I feel like the last two Colton has seen, which are the big ones. I watched The Fall Guy. I think you saw that also, Colton.
Yeah, I discussed that, I think, in the last episode. Yeah.
I liked it. I thought it was all right. Like, I went in with...
Wait, like based on the video game?
I think it's loosely based on the TV show.
The old TV show, not Fall Guys. That'd be sick, though. They should do a gritty version of Fall Guys.
But I thought it was cute. I thought it was pretty, I got some chuckles. I went in with really low expectations, but, Emily Blunt, Ryan Gosling, at least they're just going to look good.
Oh,
acting.
That one.
Yeah.
That didn't look very good.
I mean, it's not, you can't go in expecting Citizen Kane. It's just, a romantic action comedy, and I thought Gosling was great in it. Like, I'm enjoying this, like, lighter side of Gosling, just him embracing the movie star.
I mean, he's been, like, doing that now since The Nice Guys in, like, I don't know, 2015, and then La La Land, obviously, but,
And then, my last one, let's get into it, Colton. Furiosa.
Mad Max saga. Don't forget the whole stupid title. Furiosa. A Mad Max saga, which doesn't really make sense, I don't think, but that's what it's called. What do you think of it?
I mean, it wasn't Fury Road for sure. I don't even think it was Mad Max Road Warrior. Or probably, I'd have to rewatch the old ones, but I'd probably say this might be my least favorite one out of the whole series. Not to say that it's bad. I think it's good. Like, I thought it was fine, but was it really needed? Not really. The most exciting thing about this was I went with Mom and Dad and we did D-Box for it. And the D-Box was actually fucking awesome with this because, like, it's all motorbikes and cars. So, like, if you're on a motorbike, the seat's just shaking like it's a motorbike. And, like, I mean, that's just, it's fun. They at least, like, any times I was like, this isn't very good. I'm just shaking. So I'm kind of forgetting about it.
Have you ever seen a D-Box before?
I've seen 3 other things in D-Box. I saw Transformers, the newer one. I saw Black Panther, the first one. And I saw it when it first came out, the first one. It is still the best D-Box experience. Horror actually works really well in D-Box because they, like, it's really slow and they use it for, like, jump scares and stuff. Action, I find, it's just... Action movies, the seat's just shaking the entire fucking time and throwing
That's just
around.
Because you haven't seen The Legend of Tarzan, starring Alexander Skarsgård and Margot Robbie. in D-Box like I have. That's the only thing I've seen in it. And I said, you know what? Never again. I'm good.
What about you? What did you think of it, Colton?
I didn't like it very much. I think it's okay. I agree with you. It's not a bad movie, but I have no idea why you'd ever choose to watch this over Fury Road. It's essentially like everyone's like, oh, it's unfair to compare it to Fury Road. I'm like, no, it's not. It has all the same characters. It has the same aesthetic design.
It's literally fair.
They're remaking like action scenes from it. Like they're revisiting locations. It's a direct prequel that literally completely leads into Fury Road and shows a bunch of scenes of Fury Roads over the ending credits. It's like I just don't understand why it's an unfair comparison. And in my mind, every single aspect's worse. Like, the color grading's worse, all the effects are worse, the pacing of the movie and, the narrative structure is worse. Everything is worse. Even like costumes and, like characters. It's just like, it's all worse. It's not bad. It's all like fine, but it's just like, I don't have an idea. Like, I don't understand why you would ever watch this. Like, basically everything I liked about the movie was solely because I liked Fury Road so much. And I was like, oh, this is kind of similar to Fury Road. Like, if you squint, it looks like it. But even stuff like the score, for example, in Fury Road, it's like so forward that it's kind of like leading the whole movie, and it makes all these action scenes like propulsive and that much more interesting. In this movie, the score was kind of like, I don't know, in the background. I thought for a lot of it was just kind of strange. And also having like a Mad Max movie not really begin with like a car chase or vehicular mayhem or really anything at all for like 50 minutes. And it's all like backstory of baby Furiosa. And I'm like, okay, sure. Like, I'm fine with some of this for like 20 minutes to start your movie, but I didn't need half the movie to not star Anya Taylor-Joy after we've seen all this marketing. So I don't know, dude. It's very long. I thought it was fine. It reminded me of like Solo, where it's like, did I need to learn why Charlize Theron's character of Furiosa has short hair and puts oil over half of her face? No. Did I need to learn that she got that from like a Mad Max ripoff that's kind of like a daddy character, but might also be like a romantic character that she like stole his look? It's like, no, I think it was better when I just thought Furiosa was a natural badass and didn't get that from some dude she met like 20 years ago. So I don't know. The whole movie, I was just like, why does this exist? And why is it like 2 hours and 20 minutes long and like actually kind of boring and weaker than Fury Road in every single aspect? So I'm very negative on it. It's still like an okay movie, but yeah, I didn't enjoy it very much, and neither did my couple of friends who went to go see it with me. So we were all definitely disappointed by it.
I feel bad because I can't remember who it was, but I read like someone that had written an article about it that I thought was an interesting point, where they talked about how up until this one, like all the Mad Max movies essentially are like different kinds of movies. Like you had this like really Australian grindhouse one, and then you get to Thunderdome that's like this like cheap exploitation, like over the top, and then this big action epic of Fury Road. That's kind of, when I had read it, I was like, this is kind of how I feel. Is like they were talking about it's so interesting because all the entries are so different, and then this is just exactly the same as what we got before, and it would have been interesting to see them do something different like they do with them.
Yeah, like obviously structurally, with very much breaking the movie up into 5 chapters, and for like the first half of the movie not really having like vehicular mayhem and stuff, is like they were trying to do something different, but it's very much like it shifts gears in the Fury Road probably about 50 minutes in, and then it's just like weaker Fury Road for the last like hour and a half for sure.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I've heard the argument of like, oh, you just have to take it. It's a fable, it's just a story. That's why all the visuals suck, because it's, supposed to be surreal. And it's like, okay, are you saying Fury Road was supposed to be all literal? Because I'm pretty sure a lot of that's supposed to be surreal and weird as well. It's just basically everyone who's kind of heralding this as like a masterpiece or better than Fury Road. I feel like they have a long list of excuses to kind of ignore every like gripe that I would pick with the movie. So it's fine if you love the movie. It's just, this was the only thing I've literally watched in the past 2 weeks, and I was very much like, I was sick. I dragged myself out of bed to go to the theater and kind of go see it with a couple of friends, and I was just like, I could have watched this in like 2 months time on, some sketchy streaming link, and it would have been just as fine. It definitely wasn't like the theatrical experience that Fury Road was that made me go see it like 3 times in theaters in a couple of weeks or whatever. I'm good with basically probably never seeing this again. So, it's just like, I'd rather just watch Fury Road. I don't understand why I'd watch a longer, worse version of Fury Road. Jill, what have you been watching and consuming?
Oh,
like I said, that's the only thing I've watched.
There's a lot of testosterone in here right now. See, this is what you left me with, Mike, last week.
I'm so sorry. Now it all makes sense why you sent that text message.
Yeah. I was like, please never leave me with all these straight men again. I finished the Dark Academia anthology that I was talking about last episode, and it was really good. Just to recap, it's called In These Hallowed Halls. There's some really fun stories in there. I'll talk about just a couple of my favorites. There's a story called Weekend at Birdie's, which is a really cute pun, and it's exactly what you expect it to be. But it's about two assistants who find the dead body of their professor in her house, and then they scheme to steal all of her money because she's loaded. And then the house literally crumbles from the weight of all of her like papers and books while they're there scheming. And I don't know, I thought it was just really fun and just a cool idea. Another one of my favorites is a story called The Professor of Ontology, and it's about two university students who are a couple that find an abandoned department on campus, and they're curious about it, so they go to the dean, who tells them that it doesn't exist, so it just like fuels their curiosity even more. So during a party one night, the boyfriend climbs a fence and gets into the building and never comes back. So the girlfriend tries to get help. They never find him, and it's very secretive. And so like years and years later, she's a professor at that university, and she decides to investigate it, and what she finds is super horrific. I love it. I was not expecting it. I'm not going to spoil it, but it was just a really fun story. I'm currently reading another horror anthology. It's called Human Monsters. So far, I'm enjoying it. Haven't gotten very far into it yet, so I'll recap it next episode. And I've been really sick with a sinus infection, so I haven't been feeling well to watch a lot of things. So when I was sick, I watched a lot of Wife Swap and Celebrity Wife Swap.
Yes.
Which, bangers. I don't care that it looks like it's, 480p. It's just so culturally significant.
Oh my god, listen.
Memes.
Australian Wife Swap is kept me going for a month.
It's so good. There's just so many funny things that just came from that show. And when I was napping, when I was sick, I'd wake up in the middle of the nap, and it would be some iconic thing that I still see videos about on TikTok.
I mean, I regularly at least once every 2 days am it's dark-sided.
Yeah.
Right? Literally. I was it's just Christian. Iconic.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't see that episode, but I saw the episode with the little kid who gets pissed off because the lady comes and takes away all of his food and makes him eat vegetables.
Oh, is that the chicken nugget kid?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. See? Culturally significant. Yeah. Apart from that, I threw on Good Burger a couple of times because every time I put it on, I would fall asleep.
Fuck yeah.
Wake up and just put it on again. And then I also watched Good Burger 2, which is okay, but it doesn't come close to the original, which the original was my childhood. I watched it all the time. It was my favorite movie to watch when me and my cousin would have movie nights. Still funny. I don't care. I love Good Burger, even though it has Dan Schneider in it. I also watched the 2004 Stepford Wives, which is just a really fun movie. Yeah, basically the blueprint for Don't Worry, Darling. I noticed when I was watching it this time. I was like, geez,
yeah.
They really just took the whole thing. The whole thing. And then I gotta talk to Mike about this, but I rewatched Melanie Martinez's K-12, which is basically a music video from her album. And I really love the aesthetic, the outfits, the album, all the underlying messages and everything. What were you trying to say on Letterboxd?
I was didn't she pretty much disown her first album?
Crybaby?
Yeah. Doesn't she go I'm never playing it, don't reference it, don't talk about it?
Well, no, she did that album, and every album she does is a concept album. So that character grew up, and then K-12 happened, and then after that, her new one, that character died technically in the story. But right now she's going on a trilogy tour, which I'm gonna go see her on Monday. So that's why I rewatched.
Because I was gonna say Crybaby is her best album, so I'm
so
how can you not
play
songs from your best album?
Yeah, and she's playing every single album pretty much in its entirety on this tour, but she's like shortening some of the songs, and the production value just looks insane. And I spent so much money on these tickets, let me tell you. But I'm really excited for it. I'm making like friendship bracelets and everything. And honestly, there are a lot of horror elements in her work that I kind of just like picked up on today when I was
There's
watching
lots of
it.
trauma, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, that's kind of cool. But yeah, speaking of shows, I recently saw Imminence. That was really good. And I went to New York City when I was like sick as well because the tickets were really expensive, and I went to see Sleep Token at Radio City Music Hall, which was cool, but I was like dying, so it was a cool experience.
Jill went and infected everybody at the concert.
I didn't because I didn't have
spreader.
COVID, first of all, and I had a seat, so whatever. Then gaming, World of Warcraft has this new thing in game called Mists of Pandaria Remix. So they basically brought back that expansion. They brought it back for a limited time where you can level up a character and play the content. And the coolest thing about it is that you get a currency for all the content that you play, and you can exchange that for rare mount drops, which you can only get from like killing the boss, and it has like a 0.01% chance of dropping. So the mounts that I've been farming for fucking years, I finally had them because I just bought them. So yeah, I leveled to 70 in like 2 days. It's super sweaty behavior,
Jesus Christ.
but it was fun. But yeah, let's talk about the movie.
Yeah, well, I mean, why don't we start? It was the Colton's pick. Colton, why did you choose We're All Going to the World's
I actually
Fair?
have to explain it on a themed month. All right. I chose this essentially. I've had a couple of different Pride picks on my like 2-pick list for a while. I think like I had Raw on there. There was another one. I think it's like As Boas Maneras. It's like a Brazilian werewolf movie or something. That the reason I didn't pick that is just because I don't know if it's any good at all and it's hard to find. So then I was like, all right, let's just Google, LGBTQ plus horror films and see what comes up. And Saint Maud came up right away. And I was literally like, I should do this to Mike. I should choose an A24 horror movie that I actually like to kick off Pride Month and make him watch it. But I decided not to do that because I don't know. I couldn't really remember the Pride themes in that movie very much. So then I was in between this and a movie called Thelma by, I think it's like Joaquin Trier. And it just kind of seemed like this was the time to choose this, just with I Saw the TV Glow being in theaters everywhere else but here, apparently, which sucks because we wanted to cover it on Now Slaying and we just can't. So I was like, you know what? I haven't seen Jane Schoenbrun's first movie. Well, not technically their directorial debut because they did like a Slender Man documentary or something, but like, the first, kind of like a fictional movie, not like a documentary piece. And I was like, well, I haven't seen it, so maybe it's, time to check that out. And this was also on a bunch of those sorts of lists. So I said, yeah, sure. I'll pick We're All Going to the World's Fair.
Well, let's get into the trailer and we'll be back with the synopsis and first experiences.
Hey guys, Casey here. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be taking the World's Fair Challenge.
So, you want to join the internet's scariest online horror game. We can't be held responsible for what you become. All you have to do to get started is take the challenge.
I don't know what to expect. I want to go to the World's Fair. I want to go to the World's Fair. I want to go to the World's Fair.
This is for serious players only. I hope that you're ready to get scared together.
It was like watching myself on a TV all the way across the room.
They're getting closer.
I think I'm turning into something terrible.
I'm going inside the video through the computer.
It's gotten worse.
I need to figure out what's going on.
I can feel the forces of the fair pulling you in closer.
I see you there, even if you won't show your face.
just gonna disappear. And you won't have any idea what happened to me.
We're All Going to the World's Fair was written and directed by Jane Schoenbrun, and the story is as follows. Reality and fantasy begin to blur when lonely teenager Casey becomes immersed in an online role-playing horror game known as the World's Fair Challenge, wherein she vlogs about the increasingly concerning changes she may or may not be experiencing IRL.
So is this our first time watching this, or have we seen this before? I don't really have anything witty. I couldn't really think of anything witty. Normally I say something not really witty. I just chuckle to myself. But yeah, no. Have we seen this before? We'll start with you, Jill.
Nope. First time for me. Never heard of it until Colton mentioned it on the last episode when he announced it. So yeah. What about you, Mike?
I mean, it was like kind of on my radar. I had heard of it, but I had never seen it before. This was my first time. Ro, what about you?
Yeah, this I kind of hinted at it. I feel I kind of gave it away the last episode when it was announced, but I also kind of knew that I think we were all almost on the same page. And like you, Mike, this has heavily been on my radar. I remember seeing the hype about this when it was coming out. I still have it in my cart. Like, they put out like special edition Blu-ray for this, and I just remember seeing people talk about it and being like, man, that looks like it would be up my alley. But I never had a chance to see it. I didn't really know other than just looking it up, on like some illegal stream site, how to watch it. So yeah, this is my first time. What about you, Colton?
Yeah, it's my first time as well. I will say that it's been on my radar ever since before its Sundance debut, because this was it was shortly after COVID. I think it was the first Sundance after COVID, kind of hit the world. So it was literally, they were doing all the online streaming experience for Sundance. And I can't remember if this movie was debuting online or only in person, but I know for sure, like, I was discussing about possibly seeing it or buying tickets to see it online, I believe, at one point. And I can't remember if I didn't watch it due to like early reviews saying it was boring or that it was like kind of too accurate for the current times we were living in, where we're all stuck at home just kind of online watching videos all the time, or if I literally just couldn't get tickets to it because it was only in person. But it's been on my radar and it's been on my watch list ever since then. And yeah, I was just kind of like, I was looking for a reason to watch it, and then also kind of hearing that it's a bit slow moving, I was like, well, I have to make sure that I'm like really zoned in whenever I throw it on. So it's only like 84, 85 minutes, but it's just, it winds up being a bit of a chore if people are telling that the movie's very slow or boring. So I kind of had to have a reason to throw it on, and this was it.
Well, with that, let's get into the main review of this.
The Skype calls and face paint of it all.
I like that. I
was so triggered by the Skype sound. It's been a while.
Yeah, I was never a heavy Skype user. So no. Even during COVID, like I think the only time I ever used
COVID's like late for Skype, bro, and that's like years.
Zoom.
That's like a decade past when Skype was relevant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it was Zoom, wasn't it? Zoom was like the COVID one. Yeah, even Skype, like I feel like I never ever really used it.
I have like thousands of hours in Skype, just literally because of it used to be what we would use to communicate on like StarCraft 2 or Dota instead of using like Vent or something.
Yeah.
So
before Discord.
I was going to say, for me, it was
Discord,
like the early Discord, yeah.
Exactly. Then as soon as Discord came out, I was like, this is so much more confusing. This is stupid. Why would anyone ever use this? What are these servers? Then instantly, just everyone was using it. So I was like, well, I guess I'll figure it out.
Discord's way better than Skype.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Just at the time, of course, I was just like...
You don't want anything new. Ooh, boo, new.
No, like it doesn't even have the Skype jingle when you're trying to call somebody, I was very resistant to moving away from Skype, but I mean, all my friends instantly jumped ship, so I never had a choice.
I do have a question for everybody, since we've all lived in St. John's, and I thought the setting, like the physical setting, was very familiar to St. John's, with like all the dirty snow piles, like how stark and barren.
Shopping cart in it, Avalon Mall parking lot. Until May.
I was like, shopping cart in a dirty snowbank with a KFC frame behind it is just like, Like, yeah, that's like the dirty, like March, April St. John's aesthetic. And then there was like a rotting Toys R Us in one shot.
Yeah.
You know, the Best Buy in the background. Yeah.
I legitimately had to open up IMDb to look at the filming locations because I said there was one point where, like, I think it was not the KFC, it was something.
Best Buy?
One of the stores it showed was what was it?
Best Buy?
No, but there was another store that was like closed up. And if that hadn't been like shuttered, that was the one thing that made me go, oh, okay, that whatever that store is here is open. It's not closed, so that can't be here. But like right before that, I was like literally like, this here? Like,
I looked it up too.
Yeah, it was like a mixture of Kelsey Drive and Stavanger Drive, like a weird like Frankenstein of the two. And then every now and then, if you were kind of like looking in the background, you might catch like an American only chain, but very much like it was giving me very like Newfoundland vibes in the spring for sure.
I just like we all had the same experience because me and Exilia watched this together, and the Exilia was doing the same thing at the exact same time. You guys were like, just like, I gotta pop this open and see where this is shot. I had assumed Michigan. I was like, it kind of looks like Michigan-y, and I mean, I guess that was pretty close. It seems like it was like northern, New York State. So
New York,
okay. I like that we're all just
in
like
Washington, though.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
I just like that we all see like a beat up shopping cart in like a dirty snowbank with a rotting KFC, and we're like, oh, is that home?
I know where that is. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so familiar. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Love it.
It's comforting.
So I guess maybe this is like a broad question to, also kind of start this off with, but I'm just interested in, like, as younger folks and as we've gotten older, like, creepypasta stuff. Like, is that your jam? Were you into it? Like, because I was kind of curious because I kind of, I was thinking about who this movie's for, the audience, the target, and I could definitely see, like, after a certain age, not being able to connect to this, especially, like, if you don't have a certain relationship, not just with creepypasta, but with, like, the internet in general and like, how you use it for connection. But, yeah, I was just, like, curious, like, are you guys creepypasta people?
Oh, yeah.
No sleep, personally.
Yeah. No sleep. I used to listen to, like, I think it was Last Podcast on the Left, if I'm not mistaken. They have, obviously, all their, like, serial killer episodes or cult episodes or whatever. But my favorite episodes of theirs for a long time were the creepypasta episodes, where they just go through, like, 5 or 6 different creepypastas. Most of the time making fun of them and talking about how, like, how did this even get passed around? This is so stupid. But yeah, dude, I've been like this sort of character where it's like you're up too late, you're kind of lonely sitting in your room, browsing like forums or clicking on like sketchy links to see weird shit. Like that was definitely me for like a good portion of my teenage experience. I wasn't like as much of a loner as her. Like I did have like a group of friends, but like it would oftentimes be me and a couple of friends would be doing that sort of like activity. And then eventually, yeah, as we grew older and like creepypastas were more popular and, we could read somewhat because you do have to read quite extensively to get some of these creepypastas. Like, yeah, I was into that stuff.
Colton just flexing here. I can read,
You have friends? Damn.
I've talked about Slender Man and stuff before on the podcast as well. I was like deep in the Marble Hornet stuff. Which
can't wait for our Slender Man movie episode.
God, that's such a bad movie.
I've never seen it, but
we'll just have to watch all like 81 parts of Marble Hornets together, just experience the 20 hours of it or whatever. I'll pick that for one week.
There was like elements of it that sort of like resembled my, young days on the internet, but like I was never really into that. I was always like literally up till like 4 a.m. chatting with like at least 3 of my friends and watching Teen Girl Squad and on Napster downloading music. Like I always had music on. I was literally like totally, all of that shit just sailed past me because I was too busy consuming like other shit and like listening to music and watching Britney Spears videos.
That's on brand.
And like over and over on YouTube and shit. So yeah, I was like creepypastas just literally like, I don't even get the the appeal of them because it just sailed right by me. I was in a whole other like corner of the internet.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
You haven't read stories about like Red-Eyed Squidward or how like there's a character in Majora's Mask who's just like a drowned kid and stuff? You haven't read those? Come on, man.
I know.
What is it?
Like,
Tim,
what was
Tim
I doing
the
wasting
Caver
my
or something?
life?
That's like a famous one, right? Like I don't know. There's loads of these early internet stories that I just like used to inject directly into my veins. I just love them.
This is where I kind of think that even like the small age difference, does make a difference. Because, I'm thinking about you talking, Colton, and then I'm kind of in the same boat as Mike. Like, I don't really remember, when I'm on Napster and like I just don't remember that point of the internet, like that being a huge thing, at least in the circles I was in at the time. But
well, you even saying Napster was dead by the time I was downloading stuff, right?
later.
I was using LimeWire and Aries and Kazaa and whatever else, right? Like I wasn't using Napster, right?
I
like,
just said Napster because that was one period of time. I used all that shit too. I was the OG pirate, FYI. I paved the way for all of you youngsters, so
Respect.
I still have I still have MP3s.
I was
on a
pirating
fucking
on
disc.
dial-up in Labrador, bro. I mean,
But yeah, no, and I think that's just where that like cutoff is, because like I said, like that it was a different time, I guess, in the internet, and now I know for me, like I hit it late, but like I'm probably more in the creepypastas now in the last like 7-8 years than I've ever been, because it was never something I like explored. I was always like, well, why the fuck would I want to like do that when I could just watch a horror movie or something?
Yeah, that was kind of me too.
And then because I remember like getting into it, and I can't even think. See, that's my problem with the creepypasta stuff. I never remember the names of it. Like, I'm trying to think. There's like the one about like the alien invasion or whatever, like whatever that kid was that made one, and now he's like directing a movie or something. He's like 17 or something. He became like pretty big like 5 years ago. But yeah, like my favorite were always like kind of our stories, obviously, like long-form stories that are almost turned into like essays, stuff like that. I know I've had a conversation with Colton before, and probably I probably brought it up on the channel at some point, but like I really love the My House, like the Doom creepy pasta, story that, the whole time I'm watching, I'm like, oh shit, this might actually be real. And then, you're like, oh, maybe it's not.
That's how I got hooked in it. And this also is pretty recent for me. Like, I never used to, go on that part of the internet when I was younger. Like, this is a more recent thing. But the one that I found was like a Disney World one. And
that's a sick one. Yeah,
the one about living with the land, the ride. And that's like my favorite ride. And for a while, I like believed it until I realized, and I went back and researched it, and I was like, oh, that's actually not real. But yeah, every time I go on that ride now and I pass by that house, I'm like, oh my God, there's like a secret like room in there, and there's like, child trafficking going on and like all this creepy shit. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, we've discussed it, or I've discussed it before on the podcast. I think when I've been mentioning like the Poughkeepsie tapes before, like kind of like the childhood trauma episode, where like there was a period, I'd say like in maybe like 2007, 2008, where I watched like movies like, let's say The Fourth Kind, for example, which that's a mockumentary alien abduction movie, but they pass it off as a true, this is a true story, this is all actual documentary footage, where I think there wound up being like a fascination when I was like, I don't know, probably 14, 15, about like true horror stories. So I think like that's just like a natural way to get into like finding like creepypastas. Like I just searched up like most popular creepypastas, for example, and I was a huge Zelda fan as a kid. So this, story about the drowned kid and, on the N64 Zelda, Ben drowned. I watched, I read that as a kid and saw like the memes going around, or like Slender Man was huge for me. As I said, there's like, Tim the Caver. I see a bunch of the ones that were like adapted by Channel Zero on here as well, which I actually never interacted with, but I've seen some of them. Robert the Doll. It's just like all of these I've seen and like kind of looked at different points in time. Just not quite as like lonely as the girl in this movie does it. It's just there was always like, I didn't delve into it by myself because I was afraid I would see something that would actually be like really traumatizing, where if you have like a couple of friends, even if you see something messed up, like thinking you accidentally stumbled across a snuff film like we had that one time, it's at least a shared experience, and you're all like, what on earth did we just find? Like you're all freaked out together. So it's just a slightly different experience. But I mean, there are some feelings in this movie that I relate to. Just even early on in the movie, I found like the movie was almost like intentionally using the internet or watching videos just to waste time. Like I thought like the character was just kind of lazing around and just putting on videos, and it didn't even seem like she was really paying attention to them at all. And I feel that like almost in my core. It's like I only have a couple of days off every week, but for whatever reason, it's just like I'll throw on shit in the background that I don't even care about, and it just feels like it's wasting time, which I don't know if that's like you're depressed or what that is, but like that kind of feeling I never really seen in too many movies, I don't think. Just like, you know, putting on pointless videos.
She's literally doom scrolling.
Yeah, but like in the video version.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I had the exact same feeling about it, because I always think about, you know, I think about all the times we record, and then I'm like, oh, you know what? Like, good thing we're done now. I'm going to go throw in this Blu-ray I bought. And then what do I do from like 10 p.m. till 7 a.m. in the morning? I'm literally just like in this loop of YouTube videos, just random videos. I'm letting play what comes next. It's always just like weird shit that I probably have no real interest in. Yeah, I feel it to my core.
That's real.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll text Rowan in like the middle of the night because we're both night owls, and he'll just be like, yeah, I'm watching this like super weird niche specific YouTube like rabbit hole thing. It's really funny.
Looking up my weird core videos.
Yeah, weird core.
Yeah, I'll consume like 3 and 4 hour podcasts like on the regular, just in the background. But you know, you force me to watch like a 90-minute movie or a 2-hour movie at home. It's brutal. Or like TV shows. My friends hate me, dude, because they're always talking to me about like, oh, you should watch Baby Reindeer. You should watch whatever show the new hit show is that everyone's talking about. I'm just like, God, that's like 3 hours long to get through that. I gotta watch, I don't know, this 4-hour Star Wars hotel video this evening. You know, it's just like, it's just like, I don't know what it is. The power of the internet video and just how it feels like digestible, I guess, or like you don't have to pay attention to it at all. And it just kind of goes over your eyes. It's just, I don't know. It was an interesting feeling in the early parts of this movie where it wasn't explicitly about like making content and whatnot, when she was just kind of, you know, just blankly consuming stuff. I was like, oh, I haven't seen this actually shown in a movie before, I don't think. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Is it a bold statement? I was thinking this while I was watching it, of maybe the best use of the internet in a movie. Like I was trying to think of like movies that actually use the internet the best.
So I think like, once again, for a very specific person, I think this is very accurate to like, you know, she wasn't on forums, which was the one thing that I was like, oh, at this point in time, you definitely would have been on forums, like, you know, messaging back and forth, or at least reading what other people are saying. They didn't do that in the movie. But I thought a lot of it just for like the lonely, weird kid in class that could accidentally wind up being a school shooter or something, which I was like, oh, is that where this movie's going for a little bit?
Oh, I wouldn't have been surprised.
Yeah. I was like, I feel like this is kind of accurate. Like nowadays they'd wind up being on like, I don't know, the red pill path or something now, where they hate a bunch of women or something. But like, you know, there was aspects of this where it did feel accurate, even if like all of the steps she was doing like online wasn't 100% relatable to me. Like I wasn't making videos trying to blow up on YouTube, right? When I was 14, 15, I was just watching other people do it, you know? So that's a little bit off to me, but obviously that type of person exists.
And it's like literally 3 subscribers and 2 of them are your friends.
Well, yeah, like, I don't know. I made a note of practicing the performance right in the beginning and like having the insecurities where it's like, I mean, I certainly do. Like I'll say like, hello, horror hounds a couple of times before I like start recording like Now Slaying or something, just to get the cadence right or something. Or if we were recording this like for people to watch it, it would definitely be a different vibe. Like I actually hate recording camera because I feel the need that I have to be like playing to the camera and talking to it, where it's much different just looking at the screens. So I thought even that little beat in the beginning where the movie almost starts off with her kind of saying, you know, whatever, she wants to go to the World Fair, like, hey, this is what we're recording for the channel today. And you can see like her own insecurities in doing it. And she's kind of like pacing around, and she comes back and then she actually starts the recording, kind of like puts on that persona. But I was like, oh, once again, you do see aspects of this in other movies. I thought, particularly with its relation to the internet and kind of what I lived through, like it felt pretty accurate. The only other thing that I think was maybe even more accurate in some ways, and maybe it just had a more cinematic flair, like I thought 8th Grade a few years ago was pretty great at that as well. That was a slightly younger demographic. Like they'd probably be someone who's probably like 5 years younger than me But like when I was watching that felt very accurate to that point in time as well. But that was more like the high school cell phone experience, not only laptop. This is like just before everyone is like watching all their videos on their phones. This is like we're still watching them on laptops, which is a very like distinct period of like 3 or 4 years in the mid 2000s that I thought was pretty accurate.
I think that everyone can kind of relate to being an outsider and, feeling isolation, which is really big in this movie. And like from, whatever way you can access that, you can look at this through whatever lens that suits you. But for me, I vibe with this from the get-go. Like, on the vibes, I connected with Casey's character immensely. Like, Casey, I struggled with mental health during my adolescence, and I was bullied and felt really isolated, especially growing up in northern Newfoundland. It's as rural as you can get. So isolation...
No,
well, listen... I was like 5 hours away from a McDonald's or a Walmart, and you probably have all of that. Oh, really?
7 hours, actually, if we want to fight about it.
Okay, all right. Well, whatever.
I'm just
Not
kidding.
the
Go
Olympics
ahead, Jill.
of misery.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Jill. I'm just saying Labrador is pretty isolated, that's all.
Yeah. So isolation and escapism are big in this film, and I am probably like a lot of people. I was chronically online since the first day my family got a computer. So it's very relatable to use the internet as a form of escapism, since there are so many lonely people seeking comfort or community there. And, as an underage girl, I talked to adult men who I shouldn't have been talking to. I made a bunch of mistakes. And I thought that that's where this was going to go for a while, and it didn't really, so I was glad. But ultimately, as we all know, I played a lot of World of Warcraft, still do. But that is what really helped me when things were tough, and I could always log on and play with my friends there. But yeah, I just really felt Casey's loneliness and like desperation to feel something and to belong something, and I think that's something that everyone can kind of relate to.
Yeah, that's one of my first couple notes. Like, obviously, there's just like structural notes about the movie, like, hey, it's starting off with a long one take, but like just in like deeper, it's like, oh, she wants to feel something, like obviously with the prick in her fingers and stuff, but she also just wants to be part of something. And there's basically like this understanding that like if she can tap into this sort of trend online, she can find other people and either emulate what they're going through or try and create her own experiences to kind of be part of this collective group, which, it's just interesting to see the internet kind of used in that specific way. Like, I do have a few internet friends that I met like through playing like Gears of War or something back in the day on Xbox Live, saying things we definitely shouldn't have been saying. But, it was literally like a different time when like the internet was like this burgeoning place where, we didn't know that the other person on the end of the computer could be like a 40-year-old man. And the reveal in this movie of that, I was like, I don't like this. But then I liked it even less that we started focusing on him as like another character. I was like, I don't care about this old pervy man. I care a lot more about Casey. Like, why are we focusing on this guy?
He didn't turn out to be a pervy man, though. He was just like genuinely concerned about.
I know,
and
there's hints in the room where it's like, oh, he probably lost his son and stuff like that, or like I get it. It's still like we're following a late 40s man talking to a 15-year-old or something. It's like whatever the moral imperatives for that are. It's just certainly the optics aren't good. When I was watching it, I was just like, I don't know how I feel about this plot line.
See, I like that just for the fact that the optics aren't good, I guess, for it. Because like, you guys are saying, it's like, hey, when I was on the internet, I'm talking to some 40-year-old man I shouldn't be talking to or whatever, which is like, I feel like everyone has like a internet story like that, right? Like, oh, like... I remember people, like, I went to high school with, like, even if they were just, like, fucking with them, they're like, oh, yeah, I was, like, fucking with, like, some guy on MSN Messenger that, was 40 and says he lives in Nigeria or something.
Oh, my God.
We didn't know that they were going to scam
Yeah, you just
us.
feed them a bunch of lies and then just send them, like, pictures off of Google Images and shit like that. Yeah, I mean...
Exactly. But I thought it was also interesting because even though, obviously we're more interested in like our main character here. Like, I just thought it was interesting to show that, you know, this feeling of like loneliness and using the internet to be part of a community and stuff, you know, kind of blurs like all lines of like age and, you know, gender or whatever. Like, that, yeah, this 40-year-old man who, like, it seems, like you said, Colton, like, had some sort of loss. I kind of also interpreted it. I was like, oh, like, he must have had a kid that also did this, and it didn't turn out well. And, you know, in the background, it seems that we get, like, a spouse coming and, you know, bringing groceries in, but he's like kind of detached. He's not recognizing they're there. So I was just like, yeah, like this man also feeling lonely and detached from the world and trying to find this connection. It's like everybody, you know, just using this no matter what.
Yeah, it's just if you break it down, it's like, hey,
yeah,
for every 9 pedophiles you're gonna come across, you're gonna come across one middle-aged dude who's nice. You know, it's just like, I don't know. It's still like it's not a great little part of the movie, I don't think. But
well, I think they're I think they're almost. I don't want to say playful's a weird word to put in that, but like you know, as a filmmaker, I think they're playful with you thinking that, because we also have like the shots of him watching, you know, 6-hour, 9-hour videos of our character sleeping. Like,
yes,
and stuff like that. And so you're like, okay, like this is kind of weird. So, and you know, I think like every good horror movie, they, you know, I don't know that any of these questions of anything are ever actually answered. It's just kind of left to your interpretation. We're never not told that he isn't a creepy pedophile, and we're never...
Well, exactly. That kind of goes into the ending of the movie with how you read all of the last few scenes and what happens ultimately in the end of the movie. But yeah, it's just that it's a plot line in it that, for me, I liked it as an initial reveal. I don't know if we had to continue spending time with this dude and ultimately spending probably the last 5 minutes with this guy either. It was I don't know. I'm sure Jane Schoenbrun knows what they're doing. They probably had an inappropriate, you know, chat like most of us had with someone older, like especially like in this infantile state of the internet. It's just something like when I'm watching it, when it's like, oh, look how easy it is to have a grown ass man talking to your child via the internet. But luckily, he's a good guy. It's just it's a weird note for me that still I have like this natural, like kind of apprehension and like reversion to it, where I'm just like, I don't know if I'd put this.
I didn't love it either.
Yeah.
It did kind of give me an icky feeling, but I feel like this movie does bait you a lot. Like it baits you into thinking there's supernatural elements.
Can we use another word?
It's a master at baiting us into thinking different.
It's a master of baiting us into, you know, thinking there's supernatural elements. For me, when I read the like synopsis, I was like, oh, MMORPG, it's gonna be an online video game, you know? It's gonna be
that's
like
the one thing I don't
Online.
think. I don't know if Jane Schoenbrun knows what an MMORPG is, because when they use it in this movie, I'm like, yeah, but that's usually like attributed to like World of Warcraft or video games, not like this would be like an ARPG, right? Like a real life kind of, you know,
LARPing.
Yeah, like blending it, but you know, whatever. You know, it was it kind of stuck out to me. And then when you were mentioning like WoW as a way of like coping and kind of like meeting people and whatnot, I was like, oh, I wonder if Jill kind of was irritated a little bit by that.
I was like, maybe they're trying to, I don't know, go somewhere else with this, but you know, I was kind of glad it wasn't that kind of movie. Like, you know, it inverted my expectations, and I thought the way that it did that was very delicious, we'll say.
How did we all feel about going into this movie thinking it was a horror movie, and then, I don't know, after probably 30 minutes, it's kind of more so just like a coming-of-age drama for the rest of it? How did we feel about
I don't know why I literally knew that was going to happen. I was like... After 5 minutes, I said nothing's going to happen even vaguely horrific in this, so I might as well just settle in. And settle in with my coffee and the long, predictable 10-minute of silent rolling around a bedroom. You know?
What'd you say, Rowan?
I said I really liked it because I think it was horrific. I think if anything, this just kind of shows you that, you know, you know, what's more horrific than, you know, a supernatural, like, YouTube video is, like, real life and, like, people dealing with their mental health and stuff like that. And, like, to me, like, the twist of it not being, you know, like, the goddamn Ring or something, like, I really appreciated that. I was like, just 'cause, to me, it would have just been such a, you know, it just would have been such a Blumhouse thing or something. That's what I call it.
Such an easy way to go.
The Blumhouse thing to do would be, I don't know, John Teddy Bear to come out and eat you or something. But,
okay, but like there is a middle ground between Blumhouse and, you know, basically kind of using some like horror imagery and kind of like some creepy sounds and like, oh, this ASMR thing's kind of going sideways with a creepy video baiting her that only has 8 views.
I don't get the ASMR
to then
thing.
To then like become, you know, more or less a movie, like a cautionary tale about the dangers of the internet and like, you know, mental health and stuff, which thematically I agree. Obviously it's horrific and it's far more real than most of the other movies we review. It was just like when I was watching it, I was like, oh, I accidentally chose one of these movies that is like, we'll have to have the conversation of like, is this a horror movie? And it's like, oh, thematically it's horrific. And it's like, yes, I understand. It was just, as I was watching it, it was just funny that I was like, oops, whoops, I chose one of these.
I'm putting it in my pocket to try it out the next time you question me. So I'm
exactly.
Just like, there we go.
It's literally one of those that when I was a fan of the podcast where like, I don't know, you were discussing another like true crime movie or something that Mike picked, or I don't know, something where I'm like, this isn't remotely a horror movie, and then I wait until you guys get to the part of like, is it horrific? And you're like, well, thematically, you know, it was just funny, yeah.
And I will say, like, I had in my notes too, like, I definitely can see, as we keep saying, where this is a very certain audience's movie. Like, I think the pacing of it, I think how, I don't know if messy's the right word, but I'll use it. Like,
I think it's messy.
Like messy narratively, like this
Yeah.
isn't a straight, you know, forward story on what's going on. And I had written down, like, yeah, if you're coming into this, and, you know, I'm thinking about, you're coming in this, you're like, oh, man, I can't wait for what essentially should be Unfriended 3. And then you're coming into this, and it's not that at all. You know, I can see this is going to make some people be like, oh, you know, fuck this movie. I just wasted my time.
Yeah, I think it was literally marketed as, like, the scariest horror movie of the year. Like,
I do believe
right?
so.
Yeah,
so
there's a lot of hate for this movie online,
I remember like the hype up about it, and then I remember seeing people. I knew I should have expected it because the more I thought about it after watching it, I was like, I remember seeing people like hinting when they were doing non-spoiler reviews of being like, this is totally not what people think this is gonna be, and so I guess I should have known better. But I mean, like I said, I think Jill had the best sentence, which is always my favorite sentence, is this movie is a vibe. It's just like 100% vibes. And well, maybe like 90% vibes, 10% everything else.
I think like the way that this is shot and the way that you're following like her journey and the way that it doesn't tell you what's happening or what's going to happen or anything like that. I think that is horrifying. Like watching her sleep, I'm just waiting for like things to happen. And then when she starts melting on the footage, and even though, you know, like that's doctored or whatever, at the time I was watching that, I was horrified. Like I was so scared. I was watching this at night before bed. I was really scared. And then also the scene where she's wearing like the face mask and then she rips her like teddy bear apart.
Yeah.
I thought that was terrifying. There were a lot of things where I thought they were going to be like jump scares, and I thought she was acting really creepy. And for a while I thought she was possessed. So if you watch it that way, and up until the point when you realize, okay, it's just mental health spiraling and maybe all of this isn't real, and you know, the nightmare is real life. It is really scary, and I really enjoyed that experience, not knowing what it was. I thought it was really scary.
Yeah, I guess I was just more similar to Mike, where when I was watching this, I didn't think it was going to be like a paranormal thing at all, or I didn't think she was possessed. It was kind of straightforward to me, just based off of like, you're talking about the melting video, which I was like, crazy algorithm, by the way, whenever this was done, surfacing an 8-view video to you, auto rolling into another video. Anyways, but she's watching it with herself melting in this. And I'm like, okay, this is I agree. It's kind of off-putting, but that's within the first probably 20 minutes of the movie. Right. Mm-hmm. And then she's kind of just watching it, but he says something along the lines of like, I hope you're ready to get scared together. And then that's when she starts kind of paying more attention. It's like all of a sudden the possessions are happening more, or like, oh, now she's able to record more videos and like kind of put it on for camera more. Where I was like, together was like the key word that I was like, oh, she's doing this to be part of something. She's not alone anymore, right? She's doing it for an audience, or she's doing it for somebody else, whatever the reason is. That I was like, oh, this is clearly like going to be a cautionary tale of kind of leaning into this sort of like zeitgeist, this kind of viral phenomenon, and kind of getting lost in the sauce, which is pretty much what the movie goes down that way. That, yeah, I guess it was just the sort of thing for me. Like, I didn't think it was paranormal. So like when people were talking about the twist at the end of the movie, it's like, I was just reading that as text the whole movie. Like, yes, I agree. For the first probably 20 or 30 minutes, there was this question of like, oh, is this going to be something like Channel Zero? Is it going to be like a cursed, The Ring, cursed footage? Is going to be something like that? But like right after when she was kind of started making her own sort of videos, but then also like you seeing like the YouTube style highly produced versions where the kids are getting dragged into the screen and stuff, I just very much felt like, okay, the movie's not going in that direction. This is about content, about making the videos, right? And finding community online. So yeah, I guess it was just a little bit different for me as I was watching it.
That kind of came to me later. And, on the discussion of like mental health and wanting to be a part of something, and her wanting to be a part of the World's Fair phenomenon so badly that she starts experiencing things that aren't real. Like on some level, she's embellishing all of this, subconsciously or not. And this goes hand in hand with her declining mental state. And I feel like this happens a lot on the internet, creepypasta or not, different things. That's what makes it so scary for me. Like, you're constantly waiting for this supernatural element to emerge, but it's all in her head. And I really relate to that part because when I was like really mentally ill as a teenager, I subjected myself to like self-harm and pro eating disorder forums online, and it's just like such a vicious cycle. It's like very similar, actually, just like the World's Fair challenge. Like maybe for her, she feels like she has to do this to be taken seriously, and like, you have to be really sick online, like on pro Anna sites or whatever, to be like taken seriously. So I really saw that there. And when she records herself saying and doing things out of the norm, like how her dad has a gun in the barn, how she's going to kill him, how she's going to kill herself, the dancing, the singing, destroying Poe. It's hard for me to decipher which parts, she was hamming it up for the camera on some level, because it's harder for me to tell what parts are real the more she spirals downward.
Yeah, I mean, there was like a school shooter narrative that I thought it was going. So that's like, once that sort of narrative is introduced, I think it'd be a crazy movie to be like, this is a school shooter movie, but the school shooter is possessed and they're going in and shooting people. Like that's like a different vibe of movie. So when she's like, hey, here's the tour of my high school, and she's going through the graveyard looking at the, tombstones, I'm like, okay, this is clearly like an edgy sort of character, or like a very mentally ill, like doing it for attention sort of character. So that's why I was like, there was a certain point where I don't know, where it's very much just crossed the line, where it's like, yeah, it's about mental health, or about popularity online, or whatever you want to call it. Kind of in like the burgeoning periods of the internet. Not to say I didn't enjoy a lot of that. The my father keeps a gun in the barn, things I don't know where was a chilling line. I agree. And then so also edgy. And then like filming all the Christmas lights, talking about how she's going to shoot him 3 times in the stomach, or she might kill herself. And I was just like,
can we talk about that scene?
Sure.
That's my favorite scene in the movie, because I feel like, I don't know if I'm just making this up in my head, but the video of the game where you're like driving.
Typing it in. Yeah,
and you're like going towards the lights. Yeah. I felt like, it was kind of juxtaposed to that, and she's walking towards the lights and she's getting closer to the fair or whatever. But I also really love that because this starts, I think, in like November and like goes throughout the holidays, and this is New Year's Eve. Apart from the lights looking really pretty and the really demonic looking Santa Claus also, I thought it was really cool because that's a time of the year when a lot of people are really feeling isolated, even though you're surrounded by people, like parties, and she's surrounded by all these people, yet she's so isolated and she's saying all these crazy things and she's so close to all these people. I thought that was a really powerful scene. That was my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy the scene as well. And also, it's like one of those scenes that probably hints at a possible explanation for the ending of the movie as well. So it is a key scene that's kind of just put in like, this is where the movie gets messy, where it just starts showing videos that she's posting kind of out of context and just like a stream of them, almost like, hey, there's 4 or 5 of these in here in a row. And it's like, you have to be one of those sorts of people that don't mind watching like a YouTube playlist or like that doesn't mind it auto playing to kind of even be interested in the movie at this point, right? Like most people would be like, this isn't traditionally filmed. There's no real context. There's no like establishing shot. There's not a score. Like, what the hell am I watching, right? You have to be someone who's kind of just used to this sort of presentation of, you know, videos to even kind of be interested at this point. So to kind of put something like that key in almost like the middle of like a playlist that you're watching, it's like, yeah, it's definitely it stands out as a neat scene or a neat decision. Yeah, it
was shot very cool as well. I don't know, I was enthralled this entire movie. Like it felt very short to me. I was locked in. But what I wanted to talk about was before, I think it was Ginger Snaps 2, we talked about how much we love and connect with winter horror. Mm-hmm. And I think this movie does it wonderfully, and it really hones in on the isolation, the desperation you feel watching it. Like we said, with the holidays, it's a very real correlation to the real world. And, I thought it was very important to the setting.
Dancing to Love in Winter,
Also, banger.
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
I was like, Jill added that to all of her playlists.
I don't know what that is.
It didn't. Oh, the song just that she's dancing
Love
to in the movie.
Winter.
Yeah, she's singing along.
I thought you meant like it's a real song though.
I mean, it probably is. Yeah, it's just the singing rendition where all of a sudden she just starts screaming midway through. Like
that was my favorite scene of the whole
for like
movie.
A second, and then she just keeps going again. And I was just like, what on earth am I watching? To me, it didn't feel like super explicitly winter horror, I guess, just because a lot of it is still in her room, which, obviously it's lit interestingly enough that it could be like an actual like YouTuber's room. It has like all the like starry lights and kind of like some neon stuff, and she fiddles with her lighting and stuff to try and get it better when she's filming, which I appreciated as well. So, but it was just like we didn't spend a lot of time, like, I don't know, there wasn't like a winter storm scene, for example, right, where it's like, oh, it's a winter horror, they're stuck in a blizzard or they're walking home or something, that there was aspects where I get what you're saying now. Like in retrospect, I can see what you're saying, but when I was watching it at the time, I think just where so much of it was in her room, it didn't feel like explicitly wintry.
You can hear the wind and everything outside too, which I really liked. And honestly, when I was watching this, I was deep in this. Like I was like, oh my God, she killed her mother, now she's gonna kill her dad, and she sleepwalks, so she probably killed her mom while sleepwalking. And I was like, oh, she started screaming during the song because she was melting in her sleep and the marshmallow was melting. I don't know.
Oh my God, you were deep in there, yeah. There are people that think that her dad like dies midway through the movie, like she killed her dad because of when she stomps really hard at one point.
Yeah, and he doesn't
say anything about it. Where earlier in the movie he does. So it's like, hey,
it's 3:00 in the fucking morning.
Exactly, yeah. Where she's just watching a video and now she's having a full on like dance party. Where it's like, well, I guess that is an explanation for it. I don't know. It could also just be explanation as to why she might want to kill her dad because she doesn't have a very good relationship with him whatsoever. But like, yeah, I mean, who knows, right? It's ambiguous. We don't know what she does or doesn't do.
I was gonna say we can't go too much longer without me. Alex G, the music.
I rarely notice the music. The music was very good.
I'm not aware.
All of it.
I'm not aware Alex G. It seemed that Exilia knew who that was.
How do you not know? He's been around for 10 years.
Know.
He's amazing. He's wonderful.
You forget,
gorgeous.
like, it's kind of weird because I like this vibe of music, but like that isn't my wheelhouse of music of knowledge, so I have no idea. But yeah, I mean, I was not only, like Jill said, I was kind of enamored with this whole thing, but the music just added to the vibiness of it, and Like, just what a fantastic job. Just that's
Do you know
all
what
I
it
can
reminded
say.
me of, Rowan?
What?
Closet Monster.
Yeah, I could see that.
Like the lighting, like all the colors and the lights and like the music. I don't know. It kind of reminded
Mike
me of
is
that.
upset
I don't
by
know.
that.
I'm sorry.
That
I'm
comparison.
sorry.
He's about to walk off the podcast.
I don't know if it's that much of a vibe. Not much comes to Closet Monster, but
This is a vibe.
I can get the feeling it invokes.
Yeah.
Just because of the vibeness and the music in general. Yeah, like I said, just I thought it
Hey
was
Siri,
worth bringing
play
out.
Vibology by
Vibal.
Paul Abdul.
Yeah, Mike, did you
Oh
love
wait,
this
now my
one
phone
as
is
much
playing
as,
it. Shit! Stop, Siri, stop! No, don't do it.
Oh no.
Did you love this one as much as Closet Monster, Mike?
I like literally. I was like, closet who? What monster? Never heard of him.
Did we want to have a little bit of a conversation about the ending and I don't know, just like thoughts on that? It seems I didn't really think about it till after I finished watching, and I'm just kind of browsing the internet that you know, there's lots of theories, there's lots of like what actually happened, what's going on.
This makes me like wonder about media literacy, and then it's also like, I don't know, maybe we'll discuss it. I'm the one person that interpreted it a certain way, but I don't know, I thought the ending kind of just made sense to me. Like, the dude is reading a script for something that didn't happen earlier in the movie. At the end of the movie, he is reading a script about this very nice meeting they had a year after, which seems completely at odds with the character, like 100%, especially when you're setting up aspects of the gun and her suicidal ideology and stuff. I thought it was like explicit that she likely killed herself at the end of the movie, or at least didn't interact with this guy anymore. I thought. Did you guys read that as well?
No.
So you guys actually thought it was a happy ending?
So here's my take from the dumbass waterfall video where she says, someday I'm just going to disappear and nobody will know what happened to me.
Yeah.
Well, first I thought I had multiple meanings. Like the first one, like you just said, you know, she could run away or kill herself, kill her dad, whatever. The second is ghosting online, like how she ghosts JLB. And then I think she had a psychotic break, honestly. And I think she actually went to like a mental health facility. And like that's one of the powerful things about being online is that you can just log off anytime, never talk to your online friends ever again. I mean, we've all done it. Countless websites and communities that we once were part of. At some point, life goes on and you leave that virtual reality behind. And I think that's what happens to JLB. Like, he is obsessed with Casey. And when she realizes that boundaries are being crossed, she cuts him off. And when she recovers and is like moving on with her life and actually like dealing with it as a young adult now, I guess, I feel like she did probably reconnect with him, you know, in real life and had a more mature and civil interaction. But like, that's probably all it was to her. And it was more to him.
But it was still only 1 year later.
Yeah, so she's supposed to be like
So she'd be,
17 or 18 and
Oh,
she's going to like university or something. That's what I got from it.
Okay.
She went to like theater school in the city, right?
That's what it says, yeah. Yeah, to me, that all just felt fabricated to me, like the whole thing. It was kind of like an idealized version. Like, he wrote the ending to her story that he wanted. Because basically she either ghosted him or killed herself. What happens to Casey is ambiguous, but I don't think the legitimacy of the ending of like what we're being fed is really ambiguous. I don't know. I just am. Yeah, I felt like
for
it was,
once 100% on the same page as you.
Yeah, it just seemed like
that was my interpretation.
Idealized, very like happy ending where I was just like, I don't understand why even the scene earlier in the movie where he's very obviously reading a script of like, you know, fake shit going on would even be in there if not to kind of pay off for the ending where he's reading it again, right?
Chekhov's notes app.
Exactly. And then I also go Chekhov's gun.
Literally.
Literally in the
literally,
movie,
yeah.
Which is very bleak, but
yeah, I was kind of there where, to me, I thought throughout it, I kind of got the sense, especially, you know, that he, you know, where he like reaches out to her and he kind of wants to break the veil of the game for a second to check on her and all that stuff. That's when I started to be like, okay, well, maybe this guy's actually the creator of this, you know, this game. And that's where I had also thought, kind of what Colton's saying, where I'm like, yeah, he's designing this ending because this is his thing and he wants to make sure that, you know, it's portrayed a certain way or whatever. And so I did have like the sinister thoughts of something bad probably happened to her, but, you know, he's playing it off and you know, broadcasting this video like, oh, like, you know, this is just a game. Nothing bad's happening to anyone. And especially where, you know, there is that kind of feeling that someone he knows maybe have been affected by this game. So then that's where my mind, like, I guess is doing the real creepypasta thing where I'm thinking of things that no one's ever said, no one's showed me, and I'm like, oh, this might have happened, just because I imagined it, which is, then I was like, oh, well, maybe he created this game and he had a kid that all, like, played this game and, you know, then ended up, like, killing themselves or something like that.
Yeah, the part that I would kind of like pushes back against, like, let's say he's a creator of the game, is like if you do pause the screen, like when he has all the notes apps written around his screen, like I paused it and I read it all. It's very much like there's aspects to it that he doesn't understand. Like, for example, he doesn't understand where like that old style video game of like the car one that Jill was talking about surfaced. He's like, he doesn't know where it came from or who created it. He had nothing to do with it. And there's also like he's tracking current players and then also tracking players that have died or stopped playing the game, and he's
Suicide
listed.
Cam or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
he's listed as one of the people that
okay.
stopped playing the game. There's also listed of like a girl who killed herself. Like there's, you know, and then like all these like creepy pastas and kind of cults and stuff like that on the side that he's researching. He very much feels like a DM to a certain degree of the game, like what's going. Like he's a player that survived that's now kind of like wants to keep it going, but he's not part of it.
Yeah.
That I do believe that, yeah, he probably has like a son who had mental health issues that may or may not have killed themselves, and then this guy just, you know, found a community to be a part of online, and this was it. And he's just a weird guy. I don't know if it's like text or how legitimate really it is. But yeah, I mean, I paused it and like read all that stuff at one point during the movie just to see what was there, and it seemed like thoughtfully constructed at least. How did you guys read that last scene where they were talking to one another and kind of like he's a let's talk out of game, like, are you okay? And then watching her like kind of break down. What sort of emotions did you get out of that? Because I had a very like explicit reading of it, but I'm not sure like what you guys took away from it.
I mean, I read it that obviously she's not okay. You know, and I'm not just trying to quote My Chemical Romance there. But I mean, yeah, I mean, obviously, I think, you know, she is having actually this breakdown, and I do think that there's, you know, these lines are being blurred for her. But, you know, like most people would, like they, you know, even though they're connecting in this movie, like they're still strangers. So she doesn't want to admit that vulnerability to this stranger that like, oh, you know, I'm sure she would feel like, oh, like I'm so stupid that, you know, I think this is real. So it's like, oh yeah, well, of course I know that, even though, you know, I think she fully feels that it is real.
Yeah, that's what I got too. Like, she believes the game is real. She believes in it. But when she's kind of confronted by like out of game, and like you do realize this is all fake, right? She becomes embarrassed, right, and kind of like pushes him away and doubles down. Like embarrassment was like the main emotion I got in that scene. I thought the actress played it like perfectly. Where like there was people like online like talking like, oh, this was another level of the game and whatnot. I'm like, no, she was pushing back, like she was purely embarrassed, and then was like, oh, of course I know, and like kind of having a breakdown because of it, right?
And he brought up the
she
cops.
got snappy.
Those are, those
Yeah.
are very real like consequences
Yeah.
for something that she's doing as like a form of escapism. So I think that's when she like kind of woke up.
Yeah.
And you know.
Cool.
You know, this being like a trans
I was gonna say about the fact that I chose it as a pride pick.
Yeah.
Do you have like anything to say about that?
I don't really feel comfortable talking about it because I feel like if we had Willow here, she would do such a better job. But it definitely, I feel like, again, this is something that everybody can, access, not being comfortable in your body. And there's lots of times where you can kind of see that she's envying other people's bodies, like the plastic Barbie girl video.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also like, I don't know, like the ASMR thing to me was kind of strange because, I don't know, I felt like she was looking for sort of like a maternal or like, I don't know, feminine type of energy that she didn't have in her life. But yeah, there's like a lot of body horror in here, and also like, not being comfortable in your body. Even the clothes she wears, I don't know if I'm reading too deep into this, but she's wearing like a baggy t-shirt and like, sweatpants or PJ pants all the time. And you could say that's what all kids wear, but it's also what people wear when they're not comfortable with their bodies.
Yeah, I got some of that as well. And like, obviously I'm not a member of that community specifically, but it was like, very much she was hoping to have greater changes in her own body, like through playing this game, then also finding people online that similarly want these sorts of changes that, very clearly she's getting no support at home. That ASMR video is very much like, it's telling you consistently, like, you're okay, you're comfortable, you can go back to sleep, like, you're okay, I got you, like, over and over and over again, that it was kind of like, yeah, I can understand how that's kind of like welcoming, or, especially if you don't have any of that in your life. But it was mostly about just how she wants to change. She's not comfortable telling her family that she's changing. She's getting no support. And then she's finding other people online that she can relate to in some degree about, like, hey, how they're changing or how they're othered in their own lives. That I was like, oh, I can understand how someone who feels very much other in real life can find that sort of comfort online and find like a community and similarly like-minded people as well. That was kind of like the closest reading I could get to from it. It wasn't like explicit, but
that was eloquent of you.
Wow, nailed it.
I was going to say, like, I kind of agree with both of you, and I think that's kind of the beauty, I think, of this, is I think it's interesting that, I could tell, same as you guys, like, I'm not part of the trans community, but, like, I could see where kind of the metaphors and stuff were coming in, but also, like, it's done so well that everyone, and we all kind of talked about, like, how we're able to kind of project our own things onto it and how we relate to the narrative and the story being told. And, I think that's like just kind of the signs of, someone that knows what they're doing and definitely did a very good job.
Absolutely.
So, with that, why don't we land the plane and get into rating this? If you're new to our podcast, our rating system is nay, okay, yay, or slay. Colton, this was your pick, and I'm interested. This is the second movie you've rated about video games, so I'm interested if you like it more than Choose or Die. So,
playing a video game, honey.
Okay, well, it's definitely better than Choose or Die, which, it's also about like an online sort of game, I guess. I'm kind of torn on this. I feel like definitely in between like an okay and a yay. I feel like our discussion definitely like helped me kind of formulate my opinions on it. The only kind of negatives of this movie, I think, is like I don't really like the old man narrative largely, and then also like the ending being from his point of view and him having the final say on it just kind of rubs me the wrong way, especially when I feel like a lot of this is Casey's story. Explicitly, I also don't like a lot of the cinematography. It's mean to say, but I mean, it is very like indie. It's very low budget. A lot of it's very shaky and whatnot. That it's like there is like this independent film spirit kind of going throughout it, but it also, it doesn't always look the greatest. It does have a vibe. It does have some good lighting at times, but it's just, it's a little bit off-putting at times, and it does get messy. So with all that said, I think I'll lean on a very, very weak yay. Just because I did enjoy it. It's short. It is something that when I was watching it, there were aspects of kind of like my youth that I saw in it, specifically like searching the internet and finding weird shit or scary shit is like definitely I had a few years of my life doing that. And I thought like the acting specifically by Anna Cobb as Casey was very good. There was like I don't know, there's something about her eyes the entire movie that I was like, she was just like she was very good at talking directly to the camera, but also not feeling like it was overly performative, that it was just literally like, hey, I'm kind of an awkward, insecure person on camera that I really liked. And I don't know, there's a lot to kind of dig into and discuss on it. So I'll give it a very, weak yay. I'm interested to see I Saw the TV Glow, or I think that's what it's called, right? I Saw the TV Glow. Yeah, I can't wait to see that. I'm curious to see if it's like structurally more of like a more normal movie, or is it like weird with a bunch of videos and interstitials and kind of like, not a streamlined narrative like this is. This is definitely like a little bit more artsier than, my tastes usually lean. So yeah, probably a very, very weak yay on my part. What about you, Mike? Let's go on the other end of the scale, I'm assuming.
Okay, so I feel like I have to start off by saying, again, I do think that talking about it actually sort of like opened up some of it to me that maybe I just was not reading properly. I'm
but you were bored. You were bored, weren't you?
No, okay, listen. So I'll just start off. I'll start off with my rating. I'm giving it an okay. But it's like an okay with promise, because I do actually feel like in a few months' time I might just want to go back and rewatch it again. My problem was that there was, in retrospect, too much going on amongst the nothing going on, if that makes sense. Like, nothing happens and yet everything is happening, and I feel like my like ADD brain just can't, like, you know what I mean? It's just too much. But that's I did fair. Think that I really enjoyed a lot of it. I thought the performances were great. I thought it had problems. I like, me and Colton were on the same page for most of this. Like, I hated the old man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, it's like just, that doesn't happen very often. So I'm actually enjoying the whole thing that's happening right now. But like, I loved the soundtrack. I love Alex G. Like, that was enough to like save this movie for me. I just, overall, I thought it had like some really interesting ideas and it was doing some great things, but it just felt, I can't give it a yay because it felt half-baked to me. And I feel like maybe like it could have been a little bit more sculpted. But yeah, so I'm giving it a yay with like consideration to like, if I rewatch it on Letterboxd 6 months from now, I might give it like 3.5 stars or something. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah. It's an okay that is like sliding into a light yay. Jill, what are you thinking? I know okay. You're about to like just blow me out of the water.
No, I'm not. Yeah, we didn't talk about Anna Cobb, but she was phenomenal. Like, so good. So, hats off to her.
Well, I mean, you have to carry the movie, essentially, for most of it, right?
Yeah, she really did. I was so captivated.
And sorry, Jill, but that's the sort of performance that is, like, very easy to just be completely cringy and, like, not remotely believable. Like, the weird kid that, like, we all can kind of, like, know or even may have been, that, is just, like, taking solace in the internet, and it's like, oh, you're not like a weird neck beard character or an incel or something. You're just a lonely person and you nail it. It is very impressive. It's a very, very, very like thin line to walk.
Yeah.
Anyways,
and
sorry.
Honestly, no, it's okay. I'm glad you brought that up because that just like made me think of something. Like, it really does remind me of some of my students. Not like I think they're gonna like, shoot up a school or anything, but like, it's a very vulnerable time in, adolescence is a very vulnerable time in our lives. And, how you navigate it could make or break you. And I think they just did a really wonderful job of like showing it. So yeah, it's going to be a strong yay for me. I felt this movie in my bones and it clicked with me immediately. Had such a strong tone and atmosphere. It went places I didn't expect it to go. And what transpired was so unexpected from the beginning. I love that it kept me on my toes, wondering what was going to happen. I was genuinely scared watching the sleeping footage and also the doctored footage that he sent over and she had on like the projector or whatever with her face all messed up. Oh my God, I was so scared. I enjoyed the way that it was shot, even though it was shaky and like kind of indie, but I don't know, it kind of went with it for me. The music was on point. It was just such a mood. The ending was surprising though. I didn't really love the old man, so that's why it's not going to be, a sleigh. But, it gave me some things to think about. It gave the movie a whole new meaning. And, I think it was just like a really refreshing thing to watch. And I'm now even more excited to watch I Saw the TV Glow. So yeah, that is a strong yay for me. What about you, Rowan?
Just weeks and weeks and weeks. I mean, coming in hot. I'm giving it a sleigh.
Oh yeah.
It was my vibe.
Wow.
There's like literally nothing I didn't like about it.
Big fan of the old man.
It didn't bug me. Like I like that narrative strain in it. It gave me more to think about. I enjoyed talking about it. I mean, I will say, like, could I see, especially like I'm interested to see, I saw the TV Glow, how I feel about that, because I could see like, if something even better came out, that I might be like, maybe for Jane's work I'd put this down a notch or something. But like I said, I've really been like, this is one that I had on my list of movies to pick at some point, and I, was holding off watching it because I was like, I want to do this for the podcast, and I'll wait. And, this is one of the rare times, like, it met my expectations. So, I mean, I feel like there's nothing more you can ask than that. Like we said, Anna Cobb, is it?
Yeah.
Fantastic. The music was fantastic. I like the way it was shot, like very indie. And, obviously the subject matter. I'm kind of depressed you guys were giving your ratings. I'm on my phone because I'm like, you know what? I said I never bought the Blu-ray. Let me go check this out. It's a Vinegar Syndrome Blu-ray, sold out.
Oh, and it's sold out. Oh, fuck.
Guaranteed.
Vinegar Syndrome, they're so good, but every time you decide you want to buy it, it's already gone.
They only made 2,000 copies, and on eBay, there is only one copy for sale, and it is $100.
And I bet you it's plus $75 shipping.
Free shipping, but $100.
Oh, okay. All right.
grab
So,
it.
I'm just really hoping that this podcast gets big enough that Vinegar Syndrome listens to it, or someone listens to it and they're like, I need to get Rowan, send them this copy we have of this movie, because I would really enjoy that. I will be looking at all times for this movie. But yeah, I'll give it a sleigh. So a sleigh, 2 yays, and an okay. I think that's I think that's pretty good. Almost all four. So if anyone wants to drop down, just need someone to drop down to a
Holly P.
There you go. Holly gives it a hard nay, I believe.
Perfect. There you go.
Also, just quick note on cinematography again. I liked it when it was digitally, in camera, she was filming herself. I had no issues with that being shaky or grainy or whatnot. That looked authentic. I had issues sometimes when it was elsewhere and it was the movie capturing her, where it was like, oh, this feels a little
I gotcha.
lesser than. But yeah.
So we told you what we thought about the film, and we asked you what you thought about it, and we did get some answers in. So we'll go on over to X first. And we had Liam from Seen Unseen write in and said, no other movie has ever captured the isolating experience of watching a mind-altering YouTube video alone at night like this one has. It's perfect to me, beyond a sleigh.
Oh
my God.
Okay.
And if I don't get to see I Saw the TV Glow soon, I'm going to, and then he wrote redacted.
He's going to the World's
No,
Fair,
I get
is what
it.
he's
That's
yeah.
right.
But it's it's just worth noting that it has already entered the vocabulary of our group chat. That's what we're going to say to each other from now on. Like, if I have to watch one more A24 movie, I'm gonna go to the goddamn World's Fair.
Absolutely.
And then on Facebook, we had Guy Lee wrote, who, shout out, has a top fan check mark for the It's Lays podcast.
Wow.
And they said, yay for me. This movie clicked with me because it reminded me of a certain dark period during my school days. Yeah, I was going to say, I think you talked about that, Jill. And
I think a lot of us can relate to that. Few dark years, for sure.
And then Holly P wrote in, and she wrote in a bunch of times. So
let's hear her out.
Yeah, let's hear her out. I'm sure she's like, you should have just read like the last one, but you know what, Holly, we're gonna make fun of you a little.
I've already read her Letterboxd review.
I've seen your Letterboxd. Yeah,
I saw it was originally 1 star. You revised it to 1.5. You know, I see you're figuring it out.
So she wrote. At first, she wrote in because she did do this at separate times. So at first she wrote, I need to watch this again. I'll report back. I remember it was creepy. Whatever Colton says, I'll say the opposite.
I mean, yeah.
And
that's fair.
And then said Shade Brigade.
Yeah.
And then she wrote back, she reported back hours later and said, you found true horror when the ASMR sleep video is the most terrifying thing you have seen in years of horror movie watching. Weak okay.
Oh, okay. All right. That's better than I expected.
Yeah. And she's right about the ASMR thing. That was, it was long.
Like I kept saying, I don't really get ASMR really, so I think it's creepy in general.
Yeah, I get it in this movie for specifically what's being said, but yes, I'm not someone who, like, I don't know, gets the ear tingles from listening to someone like lick the microphone or something. I don't know. If you're watching like Amaranth on Twitch do ASMR, I can understand you're probably not there for the ASMR.
It's fetish content.
Exactly.
To me. Like all ASMR.
It's a bit strange. For sure.
But yeah, with that, as always, we have a voicemail on the horrific hotline, so let's jump on over there.
For watching We Are All Going to the World's Fair for the first time now, I stumbled across a few user reviews on IMDb, and yeah, it's user reviews, but still, I prepared myself for the most boring, slow-ass movie ever.
Okay, all right.
And I'm pleasantly surprised by the movie.
Yeah.
First things first, I think the movie is way too long for the way it wants to handle the storyline. I think
86
45
minutes, by the
to
way.
60 minutes would have been just fine and even better than the 85 to 90 minutes we got in the end. But the movie felt very reminiscent of all those different creepypastas, which most of us probably have some experience with. So I know for me it was like this whole Slender Man and the YouTube series. I think Marble Hornets was the name.
All right, Nicholas, you're in my good books
others,
again.
And I think the movie really captures the idea well of all those weird videos and not explaining the lore too well, but enough so that you get an idea. It got that feeling across. And I really enjoyed the acting of, what's her name? Anna Cobb, I think, the main actress of the movie. But overall, again, the movie is a bit slow in places. It is a bit too long, and maybe that's high praise for the movie, if that is what it's going for. Maybe it isn't, but it sums up my feelings about the movie. There is a scene towards the final act where she has like some face paint on, and my video started buffering, which for a minute I sat there watching the buffering video thinking, that's an interesting choice for the movie. Before realizing it's not the movie, it's my Wi-Fi that's currently had a few problems. So take that as you will. I liked the movie, though I'm not sure if I'm going to watch it again anytime soon, so it lands somewhere in between an okay and a yay for me. though I can see this one being a love it or hate it movie for a lot of people. Anyways, interesting choice. Looking forward to the discussion, which I will have had heard by the time you are hearing this, right? I don't know. Anyways, bye.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah, I love that he shouted out Marble Hornets. I mean, that was very big for Slenderman lore for a few years, but it's also a very niche and nerdy
Yeah,
part
you
of
guys
the
are
internet.
nerds.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I saw on Letterboxd quite a few people kind of have a discussion of whether or not this would have been better off as a short than a like full length movie. Which I don't think, just because I think you need the length to have that unwinding, like that mental breakdown aspect of it. It just isn't as impactful if it's, a 10 or 20 minute short.
It's probably a stronger movie if they do it the way Marble Hornets did it, though, and it's a series of just like short videos published to YouTube just with the actual title she was making in the movie, and they're all just varying lengths, telling kind of like this story of this girl's like mental unraveling until we never do hear from her again. That probably would have been interesting / maybe a little bit stronger, but I mean, I don't know about like trimming it to like, I don't know, a 15-minute short or something. Like, I don't know, maybe somewhere in the realm of a 40 or 50 you might have an interesting short as well. I kind of like that series idea for like just a little YouTube series. But yeah. And if you want to be like Nicholas and leave us a voicemail, you can do so by sending in your message to itslayespodcast@gmail.com or at any of our socials at itslayespodcast. Basically, if you want to send in a voicemail, just get it to us and we'll make sure that it makes the air. And if you're not doing so already, you can follow us on our socials at itslayespodcast. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Slasher, Letterboxd, Threads, Bluesky. Does Bluesky even exist anymore? I don't know.
Yeah,
It does. How dare
they're
you.
kind of doing a wide, big launch now, so.
Gotcha. I think I have an account on there. I just still haven't logged on. But
yeah, they finally added DMs, which is the only
that's
thing
big.
anybody cares about anyway. Yeah.
Well, if you're on Bluesky, you can follow us at itslayespodcast. And if you want to help support the show financially, like our new horror hound, James, and also Holly, Nicholas, Patrick, Mark, Steven, Joy, Dan, Brian, and Trevor, gain access to the Patreon exclusive show Stream Screams, hosted by Jill, and get episodes of this here main show 48 hours early, if Rowan gets it done in time. Be sure to head on over to patreon.com/itslayespodcast and choose whatever tier works best for you. Rowan, there better be some tracks from this movie making the playlist.
Oh yeah, we'll make sure Alex G makes it onto the playlist and brings the vibes, and you'll be able to hear that at the It's Lays Podcast horrific playlist on Spotify. If you have any problems finding it on there, you can go to any of the social media that Colton just mentioned. Go to the bio, click the Linktree link. It'll take you directly there. We upload scores or licensed music from iconic horror movies we review, or just horror movies we love. So get your spooky music on, because why the hell not? And all that is left is to announce our next Pride pick. And, we said last episode, when you have a Pride month, you gotta let the two straight guys pick the picks. And so it was my pick. And you know what? I wanted to have a little fun. I was like, we've been doing A24.
Sorry, Rowan. I just love how disgusted Mike looks right now.
Dude, he's so mad. It's his birthday.
Anyways, go on. You were I don't know. You were talking shit about A24 or something. Go ahead.
I was just saying, you know what? We've been pretty serious, and I was like, let's have some fun. And for how long's the podcast been going now? Like 4 years, something like that. 5 years, I don't know. Anyway,
5 years, I believe.
Yeah, 5 years.
Yes. Yeah.
All I know is hundreds of times Mike has used the joke of saying anticipation. So why not, just feed the people the source material? We're going to do the Rocky Horror Picture Show, get our musical on, And if I sound excited, I may be. Am I going to show up recording next episode in tiny golden underwear? We'll find out.
Hope so.
Yeah, well, I'll have to get a pair. But yeah.
This movie's
sure.
This movie's pretty campy, right?
Oh my god.
Have you? Oh yeah, we can't ask if you've seen it, but
I don't know if I'll be on the next episode if it's too campy. I don't know. I might be busy.
You're homophobic.
So yeah, get your eye holes on Rocky Horror Picture Show for next episode, and thank you for all the support. But we got to go because guess what, guys? I'm going to not the World's Fair, the new Minus Fair. It's closed, but all the lights are on. So I have a yearly tradition that we like get greasy burgers at McDonald's and we eat in front of the lights, like I'm like, Place Beyond the Pines or something. So yeah, I got to duck out and do that. So as always, thank you. I'm your humble host, Rowan.
Bye, it's Mike.
I'm Colton, and I'm surprised on how long of an episode we have. I think if you cut out what we've been watching, we might have an episode as long as the movie, so enjoy that.
It's because it's a banger. Bye, it's Jill.
See you later. Hello,
Hello,
Wow.
whores.
Oh,
keep that in. Keep that in. No. That's what you put on, like, the outtakes at the end.